Right now, something ancient moves through darkness beyond our maps. It does not belong here, yet it is here anyway. It came from another star and started acting strangely recently. A space telescope noticed something hidden in its fading breath, and scientists still are not completely sure what it means. This object should have been simple cold and easy enough. Instead, it kept revealing layers nobody expected to find there. First dust, then carbon dioxide, then methane hiding underneath everything. That is why astronomers around Earth leaned in closer lately. This is the hidden story of comet 3IATLAS tonight, really. Welcome back to Proof, where the universe keeps its secrets. If you are new, subscribe now before things get stranger. Because what Webb found was never meant to stand out, but it did, and now the bigger picture feels different. Stay with me, because this visitor changes what you think. The name sounds clinical, almost forgettable, like a storage label, but the thing itself is anything except ordinary or forgettable. Astronomers call it 3IATLAS, and that first part matters deeply. The 3 means it is our third known interstellar visitor. Only 2 others were ever confirmed before it crossed in. It was first reported on July 1st, 2025. The discovery came from the ATLAS survey telescope in Chile. ATLAS watches wide fields, quickly searching for asteroids and comets. This time it found something moving too fast for home. Its path said immediately that this object came from elsewhere. That matters because most things we study were born here. Planets, moons, comets, and dust all share our local history. They formed from the same young cloud around our sun. 3IATLAS did not share that childhood chemistry or family story. It is a traveler carrying clues from another place entirely. At first, people saw a bright blur and a headline. Some imagined danger, others imagined aliens, and many imagined secrets. That always happens when something rare appears from interstellar darkness. But science begins by shrinking the story back to evidence, and the evidence pointed toward a comet almost immediately there. Not a spaceship, just a comet that sounds less exciting. But here's the twist that makes it more exciting. A comet is a frozen archive of the place formed. Heat wakes buried gases, and those gases tell on it. So when 3IATLAS warmed up, astronomers listened for its secrets. The comet never threatened Earth, and that part matters too. It stayed far away, about 170 million miles. That distance is comforting, but it also makes this harder. Everything we know came from tiny signals and light analysis, and that is where James Webb enters this story now. Webb is not a camera with sharp eyes for space. It studies infrared light, which means it sees heat signatures. That matters because cold objects still whisper through infrared light, and when molecules glow or absorb, Webb spots their fingerprints. It does not hear sounds. It reads patterns in light. Webb first observed 3IATLAS during August 2025 officially. It used an instrument called NIR-SPEC, short for infrared spectrograph. That tool splits light into detailed bands scientists can compare. Think of sunlight through glass, but more precise and powerful. The team wanted a first chemical look at this visitor. What they found seemed odd before the biggest surprise arrived. The comet looked rich in carbon dioxide for its kind. It also showed carbon monoxide water and other comet gases. That sounds technical, but the meaning is simple and strange. Its chemistry did not resemble most comets from our system. Then the comet swung around the sun and disappeared temporarily. That close pass matters because sunlight can change what escapes. A comet has layers like ice buried under old snow. Surface materials wake first. Deeper materials wait longer for heat. So astronomers hoped a second look might reveal something hidden. That second look came in December after the sun encounter. Webb used MIRI, its mid-infrared instrument, on 2 dates. Mid-infrared matters because different molecules show themselves more clearly. Scientists call that a chemical fingerprint, which is exactly right. Each molecule leaves a pattern as clear as a signature. And this is where the story turned genuinely unusual fast. For the first interstellar visitor, Webb directly detected methane gas. Methane is simple, 1 carbon atom bonded with 4 hydrogens. But in Comet, science simple does not mean ordinary either. Its appearance changed the whole conversation around this object immediately. Why? Because methane vaporizes very easily when warmed by sunlight. If exposed at the surface, it should escape very early. But Webb saw methane after the comet passed the sun. That suggests the methane was buried under a protective crust. Heat had to sink deeper before that gas could escape. In other words, 3IATLAS was hiding part of itself well. The surface spoke first, then the inside answered later back. That delayed reveal is why scientists stayed careful and curious. Because late methane does not scream aliens' life or engines. It simply tells us the comet has layers and history. That was twist 1, and it was already enough there. But the second twist hit even harder for researchers everywhere. Webb confirmed the comet stayed extremely rich in carbon dioxide. Much more carbon dioxide than typical comets from our system. That pointed toward a birthplace very different from ours indeed. Comets from our system usually release lots of water vapor. Water is the familiar star of comet tails and clouds. 3IATLAS did release water, but not in the usual balance. Carbon dioxide remained strong even after the closest solar pass. That made astronomers ask what birthplace could create this chemistry. And then there was carbon monoxide, another important clue too. Carbon monoxide is gas that survives best in deep cold. When astronomers find it with other molecules, they learn temperatures. Those temperatures hint how far from a star it formed. And 3IATLAS kept pointing outward, farther colder, older than expected. Now drop a comment and tell me where you watch. Because a visitor like this makes Earth feel smaller together. It also makes our little window of warmth feel precious. We are studying another system from inside our breathing world. That is the kind of perspective space stories should leave. By then, the simple headline was already falling apart fast. James Webb had not found a monster or secret signal. It found chemistry that did not fit our local patterns. And sometimes, that is more unsettling than a fake mystery. Because real evidence can quietly move the ground under assumptions. Do you understand why you need one more important piece first? Scientists do not study only what molecules exist around comets. They also study isotopes, which are versions of atoms too. An isotope keeps the same element, but carries extra mass. Those little differences can act like birthplace labels across time. This is where the story stopped being merely unusual entirely. Later studies using Webb VLT and ALMA dug much deeper. ALMA is a huge group of radio dishes in Chile. Those teams measured isotopes and even forms of heavy water, and the numbers looked unlike anything common among local comets. One study suggested 3IATLAS may be older than our Sun. Another clue suggested it formed in a cold, distant region, maybe around an old star system poor in heavy elements. That means less material like oxygen, carbon, and iron nearby. Yet somehow ice stayed intact for a comet to grow. Think about what that means for a second right now. This object may have formed before Earth even existed before dinosaurs existed, before our moon settled into its rhythm. It then wandered between stars for ages beyond imagination alone. And now briefly, it is telling us something about home. Here's the part almost nobody expects from a comet. The weirdest detail was not something visible in a picture. It was a delayed chemical reveal hidden inside infrared light. The telescope saw a buried gas wake up after sunlight. That is quiet science, but it feels almost intimate somehow. Webb observed the comet after perihelion, after closest sun approach. Perihelion is just the point nearest the sun in orbit. By then, surface ices had already changed under intense heating. So the later observations exposed deeper behavior, not surface drama. That is why the methane result hit so hard afterward. There is another reason this mattered immediately to scientists everywhere. Only 3 interstellar objects have ever been discovered by humans. That is a painfully small sample for building real theories. Every new measurement carries weight because there are so few. One chemical clue can reshape how we imagine other systems. With only 3 visitors, patterns can turn into traps quickly. You do not want to overreact to one strange signal. You also do not want to miss a real clue. So researchers stayed careful, compared observations, and cross-checked interpretations. That slow caution is one reason this story deserves trust. NASA described the methane detection with clear but restrained language. That matters more than people realize when space stories explode. Real scientists rarely say impossible things after one interesting result. They say what they measured and what still remains uncertain. That honesty is part of the mystery, not against it. So what remains uncertain here is exactly where it formed. Scientists can infer conditions from chemistry, but not exact address. They can say cold, old, and unusually distant at origin, but they cannot yet name the parent star with confidence. And that makes the story bigger, not smaller for us. Here's twist 3, and it reaches past the comet. 3IATLAS tells us not only about one frozen traveler either. It tells us the galaxy may build strange comets often. Maybe our system is normal. Maybe it is the oddball. That possibility is the kind that stays with you later. Because if this visitor formed in a colder, stranger nursery, other stars may throw out other archives with different rules. Some may be water-rich, others may hold stranger chemistry. 3IATLAS may be our first real hint of that diversity, and it arrived with no warning until we noticed it. There's something else you should picture very clearly here. This comet was not glowing like a movie monster either. It was a faint ice body wrapped in dust clouds. Its revelations arrived as graphs, spectra numbers, and patient interpretation. And yet those numbers were enough to open another world. That is one reason I love stories like this most. They prove you do not need fantasy to feel wonder. You need truth translated well and enough patience to follow. A hidden gas waking up is not loud, but lingers. It lingers because it reveals a place you never see. And then change came when astronomers compared all the clues. The methane delay matched the idea of buried volatile ice. The strong carbon dioxide pointed different starting conditions there. The isotope ratios pointed toward an ancient, colder birth environment. Separate measurements, separate teams, one increasingly strange but coherent picture. That coherence matters. Science grows stronger when different tools agree. Webb saw the molecules, ground observatories tested the isotopes too. Orbital calculations confirmed the object truly came from beyond us. No single dramatic claim carried this story by itself alone. Instead, small honest clues locked together piece by piece perfectly. There's a lesson there for space headlines, you see. If a claim gets louder as details get thinner, worry. If a claim stays careful while evidence grows, listen closer. 3IATLAS became more interesting the deeper scientists looked at it. That is usually the sign you are near something real. So, let us return to James Webb for a moment. Why was Webb the right tool for this visitor now? Because Webb can see wavelengths that Earth's atmosphere blocks badly. That gives it cleaner access to faint molecular fingerprints there. And in deep, cold objects, those fingerprints can change everything. Imagine standing far away while someone breathes onto winter glass. You cannot see lungs, but you can study the fog. A comet works like that when sunlight warms it enough. The escaping gases form a cloud scientists can read remotely. Webb read that cloud with extraordinary patience and precision too. And the cloud kept telling a story of cold distance. A story of methane below strong carbon dioxide for ages. A story reaching back before our sun was even born. That is astronomy, but it is also ancestry across galaxies. You are hearing where matter traveled before it touched us. Around this point, the story starts feeling quietly personal too. Because Earth is not separate from what space does either. Our air, water, carbon, and iron came from cosmic history. When we study another system, we study another possible us. A strange comet can remind you life depends on chemistry. And chemistry depends on birthplace temperature timing and cosmic luck. If our system formed colder, we might look different too. Different oceans, different air, different chances for life to begin. That is why a distant comet can feel near home. It asks which parts of our story were rare here. Now remember the title you brought into this story today. James Webb detected something unusual, and scientists are investigating it. That statement is true only if we keep it honest. The unusual thing is chemistry timing and what those imply. The investigation is science, not panic secrecy or fantasy either. No one has found a signal from intelligence on 3IATLAS. No one has watched it steer itself with impossible maneuvers. No one has measured any danger to Earth from it. And what they found is better than clickbait because it lasts. It expands the map of how worlds form beyond us. Sometimes the unsettling truth is not that space is hostile. It is that space is larger and older than expected. It keeps producing things our neat categories cannot hold well. 3IATLAS is a comet, but not one we understand easily. That difference matters more than any fake hidden message could. There's also beauty in how temporary this encounter is. We only get a short window to study visitors closely. Then they fade, shrink, and vanish back into dark distances. 3IATLAS already passed closest to the sun months ago now. We are reading traces from goodbye more than hello now. That matters, because comets change while we watch them closely. Sunlight strips away surface layers and wakes buried material underneath. Outgassing slows as the comet moves farther from the sun. Water can fade especially fast compared with more volatile gases, so every observation becomes a timestamp on change itself. That is why the December revisit mattered so much later. It did not repeat an earlier glance. It tested change. It asked what heat had unlocked that August could not. And methane answered from under the surface like a confession. Not a confession of design, a confession of hidden structure. Around now, you can probably feel the bigger pull underneath. This is not only a story about one comet anymore. It is a story about how little we still know. We live in one planetary system and mostly guess beyond. Then one object arrives and shows our guesses are thin. If hidden stories like this bring you here, subscribe now. Because the galaxy keeps sending facts stranger than old fiction. And we are still learning how to read them well. What comes next may change how you picture other suns. And this comet may be only the beginning for us. Once you accept 3IATLAS formed elsewhere, the next question arrives. What kind of star system builds a comet like this? Was it born near a quiet old star, or chaos? Did planets fling it free, or passing stars disturb it? How many more are moving through darkness right now unseen? We know interstellar objects must be common in broad sense. Otherwise, we would not have found 3 in short time. But common does not mean easy to detect or understand. Most are probably too dim too fast or too distant, so every one we catch becomes precious almost immediately thereafter. This one may be the brightest interstellar comet ever seen. That helped scientists throw almost every possible instrument at it. Space telescopes looked ground, telescopes looked radio, arrays looked too. Even Mars spacecraft helped refine where this traveler would appear. For a brief time, much of astronomy turned toward it. That kind of attention is not routine, it is rare. And rare attention is how hidden truths get uncovered slowly. not by one sensational claim, but by many careful passes. The truth about 3IATLAS emerged that way over time patiently. First discovery, then classification, then chemistry, then a deeper origin. And still no one should pretend the puzzle is finished. There are questions about the exact nucleus size and activity. There are questions about how representative this comet really is. There are questions about whether later visitors will look similar. Science advances by opening better questions, not closing every door. But uncertainty is not weakness here. It is the point. The galaxy is not a simple classroom with answer keys. We catch glimpses, compare notes, and build truth from fragments. 3IATLAS handed us a fragment from another cosmic neighborhood entirely, and that fragment was weirder than expected in best ways. You can picture it now drifting away from the sun. Its active gases are fading as it cools and recedes. Its strange chemistry is now part of our records forever. The object itself keeps going silent, ancient, and unreachable still. But the data stays here asking better questions than headlines. There's one more human part of this story, too. People built Webb over decades through delays, doubt, and risk. People keep watch with surveys like Atlas night after night. People aim observatories because one faint visitor might rewrite models. And when the data arrives, people argue carefully over meaning. That matters because science is not a machine by itself. It is a conversation across instruments, teams, years, and doubt. One group finds a clue. Another tests it harder later. Someone proposes an origin. Someone else checks the numbers again. That is how a strange comet becomes a trustworthy story. And the trustworthy story is already astonishing enough, without exaggeration. A frozen object from another star system crossed our own. A space telescope caught buried methane rising after solar heating. That same object seems unusually rich in carbon dioxide, too. And its deeper chemistry may point to an ancient birthplace. If you stop there, that is already enough to remember. But there is a final layer that makes it linger. This visitor will soon be gone from us forever again. We met it only because our tools were finally ready. Many earlier visitors may have passed unseen beyond every telescope. That thought should give you chills in the quiet way. What else has crossed between the planets without anyone noticing? What archives from other suns burned briefly and vanished unlabeled? What strange chemistry already passed by before infrared telescopes existed? 3IATLAS might be rare or simply our first good look. That is why this story belongs to you as much. You're alive in the first era, able to study. Not visit it, not touch it, but truly read it. That is a different kind of exploration, but still profound. We are learning to read the galaxy through passing objects. And when reading is honest, it changes how wonder feels. Wonder stops being cheap surprise and becomes durable perspective instead. You feel smaller, yes, but also more connected somehow today. A comet from another star can do that to you. It reminds you home is part of a larger experiment. Soon, astronomers will keep squeezing what they can from data. They will refine models, compare papers, and test competing origins. Some interpretations may strengthen, some may weaken under better analysis. That is, normal science sharpens by surviving its own scrutiny. But the core surprise is already real and documented well. And somewhere far beyond us, the comet keeps moving outward. It will not wait for our debates to finish here. It carries its answer key only in pieces we caught. The rest remains locked in ice rock dust and distance. That is part of the ache built into astronomy itself. We are always late reading the universe after events happened. Light takes time. Motion takes time. Understanding takes even longer. 3IATLAS was already ancient before anyone on Earth noticed it. Still catching even part of that story feels miraculous today. And miracles in science usually look like patient work first. This is why I keep coming back to that methane. Not because methane is spooky, but because its timing was. It appeared late, after heat dug deeper than the surface. That means the comet had hidden inner layers worth revealing. A delayed gas became a keyhole into another star system. And the carbon dioxide matters for a similar reason too. It stayed stronger than what local comets usually show us. That suggests a formation environment where different ices dominated early. Different temperatures, different chemistry, different history written into frozen layers. That is not a small difference, it is a lineage. And lineage is what makes this feel almost like archaeology. Not of bones or ruined walls, but of molecules alone. You brush away the surface and the past starts talking. Only here, sunlight is the brush and chemistry the voice. Webb did not dig physically, it read the excavation remotely. Maybe that is why the story feels a little haunted. Not by ghosts or warnings, but by deep time itself. An object older than Earth passed close enough to study. It showed us a chemical accent from another birthplace there. Then it kept going, carrying most of its silence away. And while it goes, our models of the galaxy adjust. They make room for older interstellar comets than expected before. They make room for chemistry local examples barely prepared for. They make room for how limited our neighborhood might be. And that is a beautiful kind of discomfort to carry. Because the universe does not owe us familiar patterns ever. Sometimes it hands us black holes and shattered stars instead. Sometimes it hands us tiny chemical riddles hiding in ice. And sometimes those riddles say more than giant explosions do. 3IATLAS is small compared with planets, but not insignificance. There's a future version of this story already forming. One day, another interstellar visitor will appear and surprise us. Maybe it will look familiar after what 3IATLAS taught us. Maybe it will force us to rewrite everything again completely. Either way, this comet has already changed the baseline forever. That is what real discovery does. It resets normal quietly. Before 3IATLAS, our picture of interstellar objects was thinner overall. Now that picture includes buried methane and strong carbon dioxide. It includes possible ancient origins around older stars as well. And it includes the humbling chance that we are local. Local is not small emotionally, it is still deeply precious. This world, this sky, this one familiar sun we circle. Other systems surprise us and home becomes more vivid afterward. That is the emotional math hidden inside astronomy stories too. Distance can make closeness easier to feel back on Earth. When people say space is cold and empty, remember this. Even a small icy body can carry history across stars. Even delayed gas can reveal hidden structure and origin there. Even one careful telescope can crack open bigger questions fast, and a passing comet can change the scale of wonder. This is also a reminder that astronomy is not finished. Sometimes people talk like the big discoveries are already over, but the universe keeps handing us chapters from unexpected places. A comet from another star was enough to prove that. And it did so with chemistry, not fireworks or noise. Sooner or later, new missions may target objects like this. Faster surveys may catch visitors before the sun changes them. Better telescopes may trace their chemistry with even more detail. Maybe one day a probe will chase an interstellar comet, and this visitor may become the remembered turning point later. But even if that future takes years, this moment matters. It matters because 3IATLAS arrived while Webb stood ready above. It matters because teams moved fast enough to catch change. It matters because the evidence was strong enough to surprise. And it matters because you can know this story now. Learning a real secret carries its own kind of power. Not hidden by conspiracy, but hidden by distance and difficulty. The universe keeps many truths that way in plain sight. 3IATLAS was one of them until light gave it away. Webb helped translate that light into a story humans understand. And what a story it is. A traveler from elsewhere. A frozen body older than we expected possible for comets. A surface that hid part of its chemistry until later. A telescope patient enough to catch the reveal from space. And a reminder that reality keeps surpassing our cheap versions. If you wanted a sign that the cosmos has secrets, this is it, and it came without drama or explosions. Just a faint visitor, a patient telescope, and careful minds. That combination is enough to uncover things people never hear. And that is exactly why stories like this matter now. Because the hidden universe is not only black holes either. Sometimes it is a chemical whisper from a wandering comet. Sometimes it is one delayed gas saying, "Look closer here." Sometimes it is a clue about other suns and worlds. And when you follow that clue, everything widens for you. Soon the comet will be farther dimmer and less generous. But the meaning of what Webb saw will remain here. It will sit inside papers, archives, and future mission proposals. It will influence how astronomers prepare for the next visitor. And it will keep nudging one question back into mind. What else looks ordinary until we finally examine it closely? That question belongs to exoplanets, dark clouds, and old signals. It belongs to every object we label too quickly first. 3IATLAS wore a simple label at first comet from elsewhere. Now the label remains true, but the meaning is richer. That is the difference between naming something and understanding it. Discovery is only the first door. Interpretation opens the hall. Follow-up turns a dot into a history for us. Webb did that for 3IATLAS when it returned in December, and the history it opened was older and stranger indeed. So let us zoom out once more before we end. Our solar system is not a sealed story at all. Things enter it. Things leave it. Information crosses constantly through. Sometimes those crossings are meteors. Sometimes they are ancient comets. And sometimes one of them carries a hidden truth home. The truth here is not that NASA hid a secret. The truth is that nature hid complexity inside something familiar. Webb helped expose that complexity with clean patient measurements alone. Scientists compared those measurements with everything else they could gather. And a comet turned into a message about many worlds. Tell me what you think is really out there tonight. Do you think our system is typical or quietly unusual? Does a comet like this make Earth feel smaller today? Or does it make you wonder what passed before unnoticed? However you answer, I think the real mystery just deepened. Share this with someone who still looks up and wonders. Because the best space stories do not end at facts. They change the way a night sky feels afterward entirely. They make silence feel crowded with histories we barely recognize. And this one came from a comet crossing between stars. I keep thinking about that buried methane waking up late. A simple gas hidden under a crust waiting for heat. It feels like a perfect symbol for how science works. The truth was there the whole time, but deeper down. We just needed the right light and enough patience first. And maybe that is the real lesson from 3IATLAS today. The universe is not always hiding answers out of reach. Sometimes it offers clues we are not trained to hear. Webb was trained for this kind of listening, scientists were. That is why the hidden story could finally surface there. One day, 3IATLAS will become coordinates in old databases only. Students will read papers about it long after it fades. New telescopes will be stranger, bigger, and better than Webb. But this moment will still matter because it opened something. It showed us how another system can whisper through ice. And that whisper said, reality is richer than local experience. Richer in age, richer in chemistry, richer in possibility too. You do not need drama for that truth to land. It lands because it is real and wonderfully unresolved still. And real mysteries are the ones that keep growing inside. Thank you for exploring this hidden corner with proof tonight. Keep looking up because the sky is not finished speaking. Sometimes it speaks through thunderous explosions and broken starlight alone. Sometimes it speaks through one quiet comet from another sun. And sometimes the quietest stories change us the most afterward. Tonight, somewhere beyond Mars, in the old orbit of memory, a visitor from another system keeps fading into deeper dark. Yet, for a brief moment, James Webb caught its secret. That secret was not terror, it was chemistry and origin. And that is more than enough to stay unsettled tonight. The cosmos keeps calling, not with answers, but with traces. 3IATLAS was one of those traces, and Webb read it. Now the question is, how many more are already coming? How many hidden truths are crossing our sky right now? And are you ready to keep listening when they arrive?